Hello, welcome back to Pages into the Past. Today we are doing the mock-up or the fitting toile for the Wearing History R109. It's a 1910 suit pattern. Yesterday I printed it out and taped all the pieces together. You can see how they have the pieces to line up and they're all numbered so that you can line them up. And so today what I'm doing is I'm cutting out the lining as a mock-up so I can make all my adjustments on there. This is going to be my outside fabric and this will be my lining fabric. I'm going with cotton because one, it came from the stash. Two, it was $1 a yard instead of $14 a yard, and it's a linen look, so hopefully cooler than like a satin lining. So right now what I've done is I've looked at the measurements that they have in their guide, looked at what my measurements are and the difference between the two, and then I added the extra to the front seam. This is a looser jacket and it's belted, so if it's a little too loose here, I'm not too worried, so that we can get some of the gathers on this. The underskirt I had to add quite a bit more. I'm going to do it on the fold, and so I did have to add quite a few more inches because their waist measurement is not in the plus size category. They have a standard 36 waist, so the underdress is much bigger than the overdress because for this size it says the bust should be 46 and the waist is a 36. So the overcoat's going to be much easier for me to wear. So today what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut out the two pieces of the jacket just to see where it fits, because I am going to take this on our travels. We're going to go for 10 weeks and I figured this is a third project to take with me. I have to do this project anyhow for costume college. Figured this could go with me. If I get my other two projects done, then I've got a third one to work on. If not, when we get back, it'll be ready to go. It seems fairly simple to put together. After I get it cut out, I think it would only take me like a day or two to get this all the way done. It's pretty simple as far as the pattern pieces. I mean, literally the skirt has 4 pieces. The jacket is a jacket front, back, 2-part sleeve, a belt, a collar, neck facing, a front facing, and a cuff. So not super hard. I've decided not to do pockets, but this is what I'm going to be working on for you guys. And so we'll get the fitting started. So this is interesting. For a 46 bust, and I'm a 52, this is huge. So I think what I'm going to go back and do is take the 1.5 inches that I added on the front and remove that. Yeah, I think I'll just remove that and make no adjustments on. I'm going to remove the adjustments on the jacket because I don't need it bigger. It looks like it's going to fit just fine the way it is. The underskirt waistband is about, I'm going to add 14 inches to it because it says a size 36 and I need almost 50 inches. So you can see what I've done here is I've extended the back part because the front curve wraps around up front and that's where I carry all of my weight. And to me this just makes the most sense of this is the area to add the extension. So hopefully this will work out and look nice. But the other half is that this may never be seen because this is the band that goes under the jacket. So unless I take the jacket off, you will never see this. So we're going to try that. So I was cutting out the lining, and because we're adding that extra 1.5 inches, we ended up with a corner here that is not quite wide enough. So what I've done is I have cut out a triangular piece that will get sewn to this piece here, and it will add the extra dimensions that we're looking for. So this is called piecing if you've never done it before. It's usually least noticeable down in some of these corners, and the pattern said that 60 wide was something that was going to be needed for this, and I thought that this was going to be wide enough, but because I added the extra 1.5 inches here, that may have taken up a little bit, but I would probably, even if you come over 1.5 inches, I still would have had to piece this bottom corner. So that is what we're going to work on. I'm just going to stitch these pieces here so that the finished look completes that corner triangle, and we'll be good to go. Okay, so now that I have sewn that on, you can see here that it's sewn on. What I'm going to do is I will press it, and then I will trim up any extra that we have here that we've made any adjustments to, because this looks a little long here. May have been how I had the pattern the first time I had it on there, may not have been sitted right, but if we end up too wide here, we can just trim it off, or too long, we'll just trim it off to fit the pattern. Good morning. Well, here's another day of sewing in the motorhome. So I'm still working on the skirt, and I've already found that I forgot to put the interfacing in the skirt band. I'm not going to worry about that too much because I've already stitched it together, top stitched it. It said optional, so I guess the option is that we're not doing it. The next piece of it, it says to do the inside belt, and the directions are specific as to sew circles together to form dots. Well, there's a couple of darts in here, but no, the circles, yeah, I'm not sure. So I think she replaced the circles with actual dart lines. And so it says your pattern, the darts are indicated by lines instead of darts, except you can clearly see that there are darts here. I'm not quite sure, again, what we're supposed to do there. And then it says to use a grosgrain ribbon or stronger fabric faced with stabilizer to create this belt. If using fabric, finish the edges before applying to the skirt. Then it wants you to gather the upper edges of the back gore between crosses. Run 2 basting stitches indicated at the back of the skirt. So inside edge of belt, having large circle to upper inside edge of skirt at center back. I'm just going to keep reading this, see where it says to go. I have the skirt together. I think what I'm going to do is do my buttonholes real quick, stitch the front seam down, and then I'm going to see if I can make this inside belt work. And I think what it is you have the outside belt as decoration, and the inside belt is more for stabilization of the waistband. Not a big fan of the directions of this pattern. There's just not enough direction. If you didn't know what you were doing, I don't know that you could figure, most people, my mother couldn't figure this out. This would go in a pile in the corner. She'd be like, what? What does this mean? And then, yeah, if I wasn't around, this wouldn't happen. So this is an advanced sewer's project, not a beginner or even a new sewer. But we're going to keep plodding forward. I was reading the directions, and I'm still as confused as ever. These are not directions for beginners. You have to be a little bit more experienced, have some background maybe. There's a lot of the steps that I feel are missing. One of the things is it doesn't tell you how many buttons. So I think I guessed at 10, and I probably could have used 14 or 16. But being that I'm on the road, I can't just go pick them up because I picked them up at a specialty store. So if I'm going to add those buttons, I might have to add them later. So the skirt closure is going to just be a hook and eye versus buttons. I would prefer buttons, but I just don't have enough to get it done with the jacket in the time frame that I'm trying to finish this all by. So for the skirt, I just did a basting stitch at the top to hold the lining and the wool pieces together. And then I stitched down the front of the skirt, the opening, so that it looks like it overlaps. This will help later when I go to add the buttons, and I won't have to redo this front seam. And so the inside of the skirt also looks like this, where the outside looks like it's either it's a false opening. So I'm going to keep working on that. I left the bottom loose so that I could roll the hems where I want them. And I'm going to work on this waistband. Now the waistband is still very confusing. I'm going to try to wing it. I'll let you know how it works. One thing I did want to remind you is that when you're traveling and you're pinning things, I only bring a small amount of pins in a container that I can almost pick up quickly and easily so that they don't get caught in the carpet. What I like to use are these clips because those are much easier to find, and if you step on them, they're not as likely to draw blood. Traveling tip number 1, try not to use the straight pins as much. Get yourself some clips. I think I ordered these through the Waywhack website. Very inexpensive and a large quantity. So little pins like this will help keep your projects together. This one has buttons and snaps so that I can always have access to them. And then, because the light is not always perfect when we're sewing, I have a lighted seam ripper because I don't get as much light here as I do in my shop. All the light you see right now is a false light. I have a ring light up here, I have a reflective light here, I've got the motorhome lights here, so light is at a premium. So, okay, I'm going to keep on sewing. I've come to a decision that I will never make this pattern following these directions again. I'm going to do it my way. For the inside belt, it says to use a wide or grosgrain ribbon and or a strong fabric faced with stabilizer. Well, the pattern piece is this wide, and they want you to create an inside waistband. But then they also want you to cross it over in the front as a stabilizer to the waistband. So my thought is, instead of trying to figure a way to do this, I have some wide bias tape. It's a double fold bias tape, and I'm just going to take the edge of the fabric, and then I'm going to stitch this on, and then I will roll it down and stitch it again to create a waistband. And that should be enough stabilization because this skirt is not very visible anyhow. It's supposed to be 2 inches above your natural waistline. That's like under my ribs, and so I think I'm just gonna wing it from here. But at least I've come to a decision. Okay, you can see that the skirt is done. So some of the things that I did is I just did a bias treatment on the hem, and then I hand stitched the hem up. I did that same treatment on the waist. On the waistband itself, the outer waistband, this is sewn at the top, and I just tacked it here to keep it from rolling. I held the front down in place by the buttons. So I think when I get home I will add pockets. Because this doesn't have any pockets, and if I was to just wear this as far as doing a history bounding, like even with a t-shirt like this, I would feel like I want some pockets in it. Now the jacket will come down and cover up quite a bit, so a lot of this won't be visible, but you can see there's a little bit of gathering back here. And I made it just a little bit shorter than ankle length. There are multiple lengths that you can make this. If you want it shorter, you can make it a couple inches shorter. You can make it touch the floor. It's just whatever style that you're looking for as far as what era. So, not a lot of good directions that I could follow. I'm not a professional. I've never been to school. But I was able to get through it, so hopefully, if you try this pattern, if you run into problems, send me a message. I'll see if I can help you. Otherwise, we're on to the jacket. All right, keep sewing.